Hello, everyone. My name is Cat Oriel with Forbes Breaking News, and today I'm here with Trisha Calvarese. Trisha, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be on.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So, you're running for Congress in Colorado's 4th Congressional District against Lauren Boebert. And, before we get into the race and the recent debate that you two had, I just want to talk about your background. Can you tell me your story and how it led you to where you are today running for Congress?
Absolutely. So I'm from this district, born and raised. I grew up in Highlands Ranch in Douglas County and went to those public schools, which led to a full academic scholarship at the Johns Hopkins University. I was most recently speech writing at the AFL-CIO in Washington, D.C., and working at the U.S. National Science Foundation as a federal civil servant when life happened. Both my parents had cancer at the same time, and I am an only child. So, thanks to my union, thanks to Medicare, I could drop everything and move back home to Highlands Ranch and provide that end of life care. They did pass last fall, days apart. And before he died, Dad, a lifelong Republican, told me it's time to step up and you need to run and reinvest everything that this community has invested in you, give it back. So that's exactly what I'm doing. And, going through that experience, my number one priority, I am running to make it easier for everybody to take care of and to spend time with the ones they love. And of course, we got to drive down costs and keep America competitive. I think that there's, some great challenges before us, but also really great opportunities to work together to solve them.
I'm so sorry for your losses, but thank you so much for sharing that story. You mentioned that your dad was a Republican, so was he okay with you running as a Democrat?
Yeah, so that was like my great rebellion. Like, my parents were conservative. They raised me on traditional family values of you respect the dignity of hard work, you respect our veterans, and you respect our elders. So when John Kerry came to town when I was in high school, that's where I heard him speak about climate, and I said, I'm a Democrat now, Mom and Dad. And they were like, that's great. Sure, go ahead and rebel in that way. You can handle that. So that was kind of our great, and I'll tell you what, Mom was even a Trump supporter. So we had some amazing discussions in our house because we would land on common ground, and where we would land on that common ground, it was unshakable. And I believe that there's possibilities like that all throughout Colorado and don't let anybody tell you this is not a winnable race. It absolutely is. The majority are unaffiliate, and let me just tell you, Lauren Boebert, last cycle, that was the closest race in the country. Mm-hmm. So we have the same pollster telling us that we absolutely have a path to victory, just like Adam Frisch had a path last cycle in 2022. So we're doing the work, we're on the ground, and I'll tell you what, Republicans are coming up to us. They're, they're not signing in on our sheets. They're saying, please don't take a pick, but you have my vote, and I want you to come talk to these other folks over here. They're Republican, and it's gaining momentum. We're very excited.
So I do want to talk more about your district because in July of this year, you were defeated against Representative Greg Lopez, who won the special election to replace former Congressman Ken Buck by over 40,000 votes. So I'm just curious, what do you think makes you confident in your ability to beat Lauren Boebert this time around, especially in a new district that is, for her, that is a bit more conservative friendly?
Absolutely. So I also ran a competitive primary at the same time I ran in that special election. And we pulled in 7,000 to 9,000 votes on Republican ballots. And they naturally have an advantage in a primary. They turn up a bit more. So we are absolutely engaging our base, engaging Dems as well. But the difference is, I am not a politician who left one seat for one that looked a little bit easier to win. I'm from here. I'm for here. I moved back home to take care of my parents, and I am running to take care of everybody in this district, regardless of their political affiliation. And folks hear that on the ground, and it is resonating.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the major shifts since that last special election, though, is Kamala Harris is now at the top of the ticket. Do you feel like the change in nominee and having Vice President Kamala Harris at the top of the ballot has impacted your race at all?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the fact that there's youth, that there's energy, that there's vigor, I think also with Walls, there's a lot of excitement, especially on the Eastern Plains, where, rural communities have been left behind and overlooked for a very long time. And that's about to change.
So now I want to talk about the debate that you had just 2 days ago with your opponent, Lauren Boebert. So you issued a statement after the debate saying she melted down on stage. So can you give me a little recap of the debate and why you gave her that assessment?
Absolutely. Well, let's look at where this debate was. This was at a private golf club, country club, closed to the public, not televised. So a little bit more friendly towards, kind of a home court advantage for her. I held her to account on veterans, and I shared a personal story about how my dad, once he was diagnosed with terminal kidney cancer, thanks to his union retiree benefits, he had access to life-extending medication. I got 4 more years of life with my dad because we had access to that medicine. Lauren Boebert voted to keep that price high and out of the reach for millions of seniors and their families. So I shared that story with her. I called her out on it, and I didn't hear a response. I couldn't hear her justify how and why she took that vote. And then I called her out on veterans as well, because she voted against the PACT Act. She voted against the PACT Act. That's care for veterans who are exposed to toxic, cancer-causing toxins in burn pits during war. She voted against that. And in her response, I heard, it's tough to read. There's a lot of pages, just excuses. I'm sure that her staff could have helped her. She had nothing, no tangible, no good reason why she's taking those votes, other than she's just a bad politician who doesn't align with our values. Because those are values of the West, right? You want to talk about family values, conservative values. We honor our veterans.
In addition to healthcare and veteran care, what other issues do you contrast yourself with, Lauren Boebert?
Absolutely. On opportunities. She wants to defund the Department of Education. I want to bring the trade unions. I want to bring employers so that there's good pathways into good jobs right out of high school. Because you know what? There is no 4-year college or university in all of Colorado for. We've got amazing community colleges. We have an amazing labor movement. Shout out to IBEW 68. They have an amazing apprenticeship program. It's earn while you learn. You become a journeyman electrician, and then you go to Metro State on top of it. And you can get a bachelor's degree in whatever you want. That's how we not only inspire the next generation of engineers, it's how we actually fund them and how they have a pathway. So I'm working on jobs. I'm working on actual economy. You know what else I'm hearing? I'm hearing from single moms all the time who are like, look, I need to get back into the workforce. I need to make more money. Maybe I'm getting a credential, or I don't want to, redo my whole background, my whole bachelor's, but I need a path into good jobs. So there's a disconnect between the current workforce opportunities and those good job outcomes. I want to bridge the gap. There's no reason we can't. And we're facing a looming job shortage in those jobs of the future. So we can get ahead of it. We can think of it now, and we can lift all of us up at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know one issue that's important to voters in this election, especially, is immigration. And like you said, about a lot of people are concerned about it when it comes to the economy. But right now, I want to talk about a current event that's happening in Colorado and Aurora, particularly, which is, I believe, right outside your district. And right now, there are a lot of conflicting reports out there. Some reports saying there are apartment buildings allegedly being taken over by Venezuelan gangs. But then the police department is coming out saying this is not true. There's definitely not a gang takeover. So can you help people make sense of what's going on right now on the ground there?
Yeah, let me tell you this. So I have people come up to me all the time, and they tell me, listen, you have to win. You just have to win, because I'm terrified what's going to happen if Lauren wins. And these people are citizens. These are citizens, and that's the point. The fear-mongering is the point. If Representative Boebert cared so much about fixing the immigration system, because it's a systematic problem, then she would have gone ahead and signed on to that bipartisan border bill as a start. Or she could have gone ahead and funded Custom and Border Patrols at the level they requested, instead of proposing major cuts. So she's not taking this issue seriously. We're not going to demonize immigrants. We're smart folks. We can separate this is violent gang activity versus these are Venezuelan immigrants. And what is also a poorly run building by a private entity that is actually not providing what it should to the people who pay their rent. So that's, and let me tell you, you know what? There's also, when I talk to farmers and ranchers and people in the care industry, they say this whole deport them all thing, if we actually implemented that, that would hurt my bottom line. That would be awful for me. So we need a pathway. We need a pathway to citizenship. We need to close the amnesty loophole, but we need to not play games with people's lives. And we absolutely need to stop the fear mongering, because it is dangerous, it is anti-democratic, and we're not going to let it stand.
So do you believe what's going on, for example, in Aurora is just another example of like the fear mongering and rhetoric that's coming out from conservatives, Republicans, and that actually is just a rundown apartment building that needs help from management?
Well, I mean, it's not to say that there's not gang activity in Aurora, and law enforcement, shout out to them. It's already a tough enough job, and then to have to navigate this in a very political, environment that's become a lightning rod and dangerous is horrible. So I absolutely do not trust whatever Lauren Boebert says the situation is online. Let's start there, right? Always question them. Do not take what you see online at face value. So like, two things can be true at once, right? Where we can absolutely step up against gang violence, and we can also say, hey, this is ridiculous that you're trying to paint it as if there's some sort of takeover of these buildings. That's absurd.
So lastly, I do want to talk about, even though you did have this debate a few days ago, like you said, it wasn't televised. People had to pay to get in. So you are challenging Boebert to a televised debate. And you've recently put out an ad poking fun at her and calling out her disruptive behavior in a theater that caused her to get kicked out of a musical performance of Beetlejuice. And so I'm just wondering, why did you decide to focus on this incident in your ad? And are you also hearing from voters that they are concerned about Boebert's behavior, or do you think voters are willing to overlook it?
Yes, and I was very honored to make that video, to have right next to me folks from IATSE who were working that night at the Buell Theater. They didn't even know that Boebert disrupted it because they kept the show going. Those hardworking folks who kept going. But you know what? Lauren Boebert, as was seen on camera, flipped off workers on her way out. That is so disrespectful to working people. That's the part that really upsets people. Because we're also, if you're middle class and you are actually from here, you know how important and how special a night at the Buell Theater is for you and your family. People save up for it, they go out, it's a special thing. And for Representative Boebert to disrupt it, to be so disrespectful like that, it's inexcusable. So I think the Buell might be a great place to have a debate, but if she's not okay with that, I'm open to other ideas. But it is a fundamental part of our republic, of our democracy, that voters have a choice, that they can see the two of us on stage debating our ideas, debating our visions, and laying that out side by side. It's frankly anti-democratic not to provide that for voters across Colorado for.
Well, thank you so much. That's the end of my questions. Do you have anything else you would like to add before we close?
Please help me out, y'all. We can do this, but I need your support. Go to defeatlauren.com. Pitch in anything you can. We are funded by small dollar donors. We're not taking any corporate PAC money. So please help us out, donate, and let's get rid of Boebert. Thank you.
Trisha Calvarese, thanks so much for your time today.